Tonight, the question of the day, was there or was there not a crime committed by the Clinton Foundation? Hillary losing the election should have no impact on that investigation. In just moments, Charles Ortel weighs in. Then, is Harry Reid right? Will people die if Republicans repeal Obamacare? And what is this, the eighth excuse Democrats have used since the election about why Hillary lost? Bill Clinton now says Trump doesn't know anything except how to get angry white men to vote for him. Thanks for being here tonight. As you know, our nation is at a tipping point. We either turn America towards liberty or we risk losing her forever. So let's get started. Our first tipping point tonight, was there or was there not a crime committed by the Clinton Foundation? Hillary losing the election should have no impact on that investigation. Accordingly, the FBI office in New York has been told by headquarters not to suspend their investigation into the Clinton Foundation, this according to reliable sources. The investigation itself was triggered last February by recordings of suspects in Los Angeles who were reportedly discussing money laundering. This comes on the heels of allegations of charity fraud from the Clinton Foundation as well, a violation of state law in New York, as well as allegations of pay-to-play schemes while Hillary was Secretary of State. Joining me now, Wall Street investment analyst Charles Ortel. Charles, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Liz.
All right, Charles, let's start with this question of the day. It's a pretty serious one. In your opinion, was there or was there not a crime committed by the Clinton Foundation?
Well, Liz, I don't think there was one crime. I think this is the largest unprosecuted charity fraud conspiracy ever in recorded history. By my calculation, looking through the available declarations that the trustees have made around the world, we are talking here about a fraud counting illegal private gains that is likely denominated not in the hundreds of billions of dollars, but possibly in the trillions of dollars.
Wow, right, and then that's pretty significant. Like you said, I think it's potentially more than 1, 2, 3 crimes here. The FBI office in New York, like I said in the introduction, they were given orders by headquarters not to suspend their investigation just because Hillary lost, even in the face of Donald Trump saying he may not appoint a special prosecutor. Charles, what do you make of that?
Well, you know, I think in this country, we still, even today, have, in theory, equal treatment under the law. And there are 2 recent cases involving congresspeople who were involved with alleged slush funds. One, a representative called Chaka Khan, I think, or Fatah Khan, has been sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. Another, Corinne Brown, is under indictment in the middle of being prosecuted for an $800,000 slush fund. Here we have, on declared donations alone, something that's probably $2 billion in terms of declared donations accounted for illegally, likely diversion of those donations. But beyond that, all these hidden payments that can only come to light once the FBI, once foreign governments get serious about bringing the Clintons and their cronies and co-conspirators to justice.
Right, and I think that's why President-elect Trump has encouraged ambassadors, or he's planning to encourage ambassadors, I should say, to pressure foreign nations to have their investigative teams look into this too, not just the United States. But Charles, go through the list of some of the charity fraud violations that you found within the Clinton Foundation, if you would, the ones that violate state law in New York.
Okay, so under state law, under New York state law, which is very strict, you have to provide a complete, comprehensive, consistent, consolidated accounting of a charity's results. This charity, based in actually Little Rock, has spread through all the states and through numerous countries around the world, and they resist getting any independent accounting firm to comply with the law. There has never been a legally compliant, strict audit performed of this, going all the way back to its founding, October 23rd, 1997. So that's one obvious area. Another area would be when you compare the donations made by the biggest donor, Unitate, an entity in Switzerland, to what the Clintons claim they may have gotten from that entity, there's hundreds of millions of dollars discrepancy there. Same story, a smaller discrepancy because Gates gave less, but you go known donor by known donor, and look what they claim they gave to the Clinton Foundation, and try to figure out what the Clinton Foundation is declaring they received, and you see these massive diversions. Those would be 2 simple and straightforward areas that the IRS itself, with no help from the FBI, should have been on long ago.
Right, particularly the donation aspect. Charles, let me ask you this. Any other charity of this size, particularly in the state of New York, I guess, since we're talking about New York state law, anybody else of this size get away with things like this?
Well, sadly, Liz, you know, people, because there's so many charities do indeed get away with these technical violations. We're talking actually about New York state law, but I would encourage your viewers to understand that no state and even our federal government has control over this prosecution because this Clinton Foundation has been operating around the world, illegally soliciting money, illegally operating. Multiple governments, multiple serious governments, the UK, the French, Australians, the Norwegians, the Swedish, many foreign governments can prosecute no matter what President Obama decides to do on the way out, maybe pardoning, or what Donald Trump decides to do on the way in.
Right. Essentially what you're saying then, if I'm not mistaken, is that the Clinton Foundation isn't immune to being prosecuted even if Donald Trump decides not to pursue the special prosecutor, even if Barack Obama issues a pardon to Hillary Clinton. But Charles, talk to me about this investigation itself. It was started in last February, and the investigation was triggered by FBI recordings in Los Angeles of people talking about money laundering. I mean, that takes it to a whole new level as well.
Yeah, I mean, sad to say, a charity is almost, in quotes, a perfect vehicle for money laundering. If you've got a crooked charity with crooked trustees and no accountants and no controls, and you want to move money around the world, who's going to question money going in and out of a charity? People are happy to see large sums go into it, and if you don't have accountants checking what they really did with the money, you can move illicit black money into a charity. You can pay off your friends. You can pay off politicians. You can have foreign governments corrupting the American political system. You can have this government corrupting foreign governments. And so, that's why I lit on this in March of 2015 as an example that really needs to be studied and exposed so that people understand charity fraud in the name of a former president, an aspiring president, is a diabolical conspiracy that deserves to be fully exposed and assiduously punished.
Right, because I think, like you said, it might be the easiest way to money launder here, but it's also the most despicable because there are many donors who have goodwill, who intend for their money to go to charitable donations, and it's being used for nefarious purposes within the Clinton Foundation that, to me, morally makes it so much worse even. But Charles, former President Bill Clinton has been blaming James Comey recently for renewing the investigation. Of course, it was never officially closed. He didn't reopen it. He just renewed it several days before the election. He said if James Comey hadn't done that, the election would have turned out very differently. But in fact, a judge just ordered a search warrant to be unsealed that led to this renewal of this investigation. So it wasn't completely political.
I'd say that's kind of rich. That's like when a thief gets apprehended and the thief says, if the policeman hadn't caught me, then I wouldn't be going to jail. I mean, the trustees of the Clinton Foundation are required, Bill Clinton included, to make truthful disclosures. And instead of doing that, they've been making false and materially misleading disclosures, soliciting funds on false pretenses. And we could get into some more details about the diabolical things this charity has actually done with its loose controls, hurting and potentially killing people in the process of, in theory, fighting HIV/AIDS.
Right, and that of course you're referring to in East Africa when the Clinton Foundation distributed HIV medicine that was later found to be watered down, which in fact can be even more dangerous because it can not only cause those people their lives because they're not getting the medication that they need, but it can cause the spread because they're not treated.
Exactly, and it's really a diabolical thing to think that a former president, an aspiring president who should know better, and their daughter, who has a PhD, I believe, in health-related issues, would sit on top of a charity and allow this type of danger to spread, not simply in East Africa, but all across Africa, Asia, parts of Eastern Europe, and into the Caribbean. I mean, this is really bad stuff. Marsha Blackburn and her staff issued a fantastic report. I'd encourage your viewers to read it. We need to step in, lean in, and get concerned about this.
Right, and it's not just a political issue that should end with the campaign. Charles, thank you so much, as usual, for detailing all these abuses by the Clinton Foundation. Like you said, people need to know. We need to know what's happening, and we need to hold the Clintons accountable. I appreciate it.